I got kicked so hard in the mouth. I had a bruise, and I have a picture of it the next day, and it was like massive right here. And I was like, are my teeth still there? Like
Welcome to Social Kick. We got the full crew. I'm Brian Lundquist. We got Dr. John Mullen, Luke Paddington, and Mariah Denigan. What's going on, Mariah? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Because we're being joined by an open water legend, Paris Olympian today. I wore my I'd rather be sprinting t-shirt to this one, just so that you know very clearly that I would rather not be doing any of the distance swimming that you're doing, and I would rather be sprinting. But Mariah, we always ask our audience for questions for our guests at Social Kick Swim on Instagram, and I wanted to lead off with your new bud, Zalin Sharkhan, who said, "Wow, is Indiana as good as they say?"
Yes, it is. And it's been, the culture has been just getting better, especially with like transfers like Zalon and Owen McDonald coming in. And I just think that the program is on the up and up, and I'm excited for the NCAA season ahead. So yeah, it is as good as everyone says it is.
Hell yeah. Okay, this one is from Mark Nagjurgars. Sorry, I don't know what that is. What song fills your mind while you're swimming distance events?
Oh my gosh.
She needs a whole album, not a song.
I know. I know. I feel like I play SZA a lot, and lately it's been like the Chapel Rowan "Good Luck Babe." I feel like it's whatever song we're singing before practice, so that's usually what's rolling through my head.
Hey, that's good if you can like set the tone and stay on that.
Yes, exactly.
What's the worst song that you can get stuck in your head?
One time before Open Water Nationals, and this was like 2018, I think Haley Anderson or Erica Sullivan started singing Old Town Road, and that was stuck in my head for the 2-hour race. That was so bad.
Side note, for some reason, I remember first like learning about that song hanging out with Luke and his family, and whenever I hear that horses in the bag, I always think about like Ezzy dancing. Luke, that's Luke's daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, all right. Okay, and this one's from Aido Mohammed wants to know, when did you start taking swimming seriously, not only as a sport for fun? And I remember reading something about you saying that, like, you know, you're growing up playing soccer and basketball, but other people didn't necessarily take your swimming seriously. So when did you start taking it seriously, and when did other people start taking your swimming seriously?
I think I started taking swimming seriously when I was 10 years old is when I really started to realize, like, I think swimming, I was still playing other sports at the time. Like, I still played basketball until 6th grade. But I think when I was 10 years old, that's when I saw that I was, I think, ranked 2nd or 3rd in the country for 9 and 10-year-olds in a couple of my events. And so then I was just like, I want to be first. And so I just started taking that more seriously and like focusing in on my training and eat all the things, nutrition, not as stiff as obviously my nutrition is now, but that's when I started to like really, really focus on swimming.
So you grew up in a town just south of Cincinnati,
Mm-hmm.
is that right? So
Yes.
John's from Cincinnati too. Well, sort of Dayton, right? But
Dayton, Dayton, technically, yeah.
But you represented Lakeside. Did you move at some point?
Yes. So I was in Cincinnati area for the Northern Kentucky Clippers until I was 16. And then in 2019, that's when Coach Norm left to go coach Nova of Virginia. And that's when I left to go to Lakeside because it was a lot like for me to go and live out on my own and with just one parent in Virginia. So we decided like as a family to move down to Louisville together because we wanted to stay together. And so I stayed at Lakeside until I graduated high school.
Man, so you're one of these families. So like your swimming was the priority in moving the family. Is that right?
Yes, a little. It was a family decision, but once I was done with swimming in club, that's when my family was like, all right, it's time to make a decision for like, let Mackenzie, my sister, make a decision. And so she wanted to move back up to Northern Kentucky. And Chase wasn't as happy of it at first. He's my little brother, but he is happy now. And so now it's like their turn to make a decision. And my parents kind of let them have their say as well.
Wow, that's so selfless of your parents to
I know.
Put such big decisions in your children's hands at such a young age.
And especially because my dad, he was always working in Northern Kentucky, so he would have to make the drive. Like for 5 years, he was making a drive back and forth, and so they kind of realized like it's time to move the whole family back together, and so now we're all like happy living back in Northern Kentucky again.
Did you feel pressure from that? Did you feel like I have a responsibility to perform, and then when things didn't go wrong, you felt, oh crap, look what I did to my family, or that was you guys were just cool as a family and came together and supported each other?
A little bit of both, especially for that 2021 trials area. I did not have the trials that I had wanted to, and I felt really like, I guess, upset with myself and kind of down because of the fact that my family had made all these sacrifices for me. But at the end of the day, like they love me no matter what the result is. And I think they would do it again, even just because that's how selfless my parents are. And I think I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. And I think I needed to go through that 2021 trials in order to kind of get back on the road and have a path leading up to 2024 Olympics. So
yeah, it's you mentioned something when you're 10, you wanted to be first, you found out you're second or third. And so when you're 10, you made that decision. And I read when you were 16, you told the IU coaches, listen, can you guys guarantee me that you're going to focus in the Olympics and not just NCs? You're 16 and it came through. You swim a 2-hour race and you have to finish at the end. It seems that you are. What is it about your character that has that grit and that drive and that determination and this self-belief?
I think a lot of it is just a drive to be better. I still just want more for myself, like even after this past Olympics. And I even told my parents, I was like, I could see myself going until 2032 because that's how like old the other Olympic medalists are for open water swimming. There's a lot of longevity in it. And I think you kind of have to have like, I just have so much love for this sport and so much respect for it. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. And that's just kind of my mindset behind it. So that's kind of what is my biggest driver. But I think even outside of swimming, I'm a very driven person and very structured. And so I think that kind of translates into my swimming, and it's what makes me a better swimmer.
Luke mentioned when you were young talking with the IU coaches about, your open water emphasis still. And obviously you were still a great recruit out of high school, but how does that go as being recruited as, a distance swimmer? Obviously in college swimming, more emphasis is based on the sprints and the relays and things like that. So is it just, like I said, focusing on those events or also expanding kind of what else you think you can do?
A lot of it is like, yes, I was recruited as a distance swimmer. However, there are events that I can do in dual meets that I can help score some points for IU. And so a lot of it is like I train IM and not while I don't do 2 IM, I do 4 IM, which isn't as helpful because for like dual meet purposes, I guess. But I'm also not a bad 200 backstroker. And so sometimes they'll throw me in that and I can score some points for the team there. And I think having the 1,000 in dual meets and stuff like that. But I think it's a lot of yes, it's harder for distance swimmers to get recruited because a lot of the times coaches are focusing on that. But during my recruiting process, they were just like not focusing on that at all. And they knew that this is what she does. This is what she's good at. And so this is what we're going to help her excel at.
University of Florida is a freestyle university, and Cal is known for men's 200 backstroke. And the Sandpipers produce all these great open water swimmers as a club. Is there a university?
Sorry, my dog.
That's all right. We love them.
I'm so
That's one of my
sorry.
dogs.
What's the dog name?
His name's Duncan.
Oh, Duncan. Okay. What kind of
Yes.
dog is it?
He's a Bernedoodle.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a big
okay.
dog. Something must have scared him outside.
Is there a university of open water?
I think it's starting to be, and it's fun that Delon swims open water, and I think that he's going to start getting back into that. And then Claire Stolmacher, she just won Junior Worlds in open water 10K. Having her as a training partner is exciting now because now I'm not doing the challenge practice all on my own, which is really fun now that I have training partners for that. And I just think that the distance crew at IU is getting a lot bigger, and our coaches are really putting an emphasis on having like training partners for me up until that 2032 point. So it's exciting.
So as a Purdue grad, I've had a lot of beef with IU. And one of the reasons is because you beat us constantly in swimming. And now recently we saw a video with you and Anna, your teammate, another Olympian, doing a social kick for USA Swimming. We've been doing social kicks together since like 2018, 2019 and recording it. So you're just giving me something else to dislike IU for. So why are you cheating on us with USA Swimming doing social kick?
I think social kick's just a necessity of a practice for we always say that it's not a complete practice without a little bit of social kick in there, and I think a lot of us have been starting to like record things a lot more during practice, and there's a couple people that bring their GoPros and make little edits of practice. I think it's just a fun way to lighten up the mood on the pool deck. So we have a lot of fun at IU practices, and I feel like sometimes giving people a little snippet, it helps during recruiting, but it also helps just like have fun and like just to showcase who we are as a program.
Can I, so Anna asked you a question in that one.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. Anna asked you a question in that one, 2IM or 50 free, and you picked 2IM. Can you explain?
I cannot sprint 50s. We did the quadrathlon and I was really, really bad. I just can't. It's just so frustrating sometimes because I can push 50s like as fast as possible, like back to back to back. But when it comes to just doing one singular 50 off the blocks, I don't like my muscles tighten up and then all of a sudden I'm like having an out of body experience and I'm not able to go fast. So it's just like how I'm built. I'm definitely a distance swimmer through and through, and therefore the 2IM would be a better option for me.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I get it. But also, I was curious about this. Do you think that your kind of, if you were to compare the time that you would swim a 1500 straight, uninterrupted in open water, maybe it's even clean water, right? If you had a 1500 meter long pool, do you think that like you're one of the swimmers that would have like the smallest delta between your open water swim with no turns versus one in the either short course or long course pool with turns?
I think if it was perfect conditions in open water and just a swim straight, I would go faster than the mile in the pool, the 1500 in the pool. I really think that. And I think my coaches would actually agree with me on this. Just because my turns are not good, and that's why I struggle a short course. And I've always been a better long course swimmer as well, especially if you compare my 1500 at trials to my 1650 at NCAAs. Like that's just always been, turns have always been my struggling point. So I think I would go faster if I just had a straight swim.
Well, you mentioned social kick being a necessity, but you also before that mentioned there was being some challenge practices and things like that. So you probably need some social kick between some of those. What are some of these challenge practices and sets that you're doing?
So Wednesday's challenge day, that would be an open water themed practice, I guess. But very aerobic. This week we did 2 1000s, 2 800s, 2 600s, 2 400s, 2 200s. It's just a big, long practice that is meant to like mentally push yourself into, okay, this is just me swimming straight for a long time and let's just see if we can get faster throughout the set. And I genuinely really enjoy the practice. I do. I think that it helps me because I am such what does Ray likes to call me, an aerobic machine. Just because that's how I'm built. I go faster as the set goes further and as the distance gets longer, and that's the kind of practice that challenge is.
What is it about pain that you enjoy? Because pain sets in no matter how good you are, if your distance or short. What is it about pain that you enjoy in your racing?
I like pushing through it. I think that the best practices that I've ever had are when I'm able to not feel good and still go fast. And I think those are the kinds of practices that help you just like take a big step forward mentally, because there you might be on an open water race day and dive in and be like, man, I feel like crap today, but you're still going to have to get it done. And it's still going to be a 2-hour long race regardless. And I think those kinds of practices where it's like, man, I feel awful today, but I still need to find a way. And I think that comes in, that's a huge mental aspect of swimming, is just being able to push through that barrier. And I feel like that's what a lot of people lack, is like some people shut down when it gets to that pain tolerance. And if you're able to push past that, I feel like it's another hoop that you're jumping through mentally, and it gives you a leg up. So
I'm just curious to hear your thoughts about this quote from Ray. This is on your Team USA swimming bio, but this like whole quote that he was talking about, you just mentioned it about like your aerobic system, but and also anaerobic, but Ray says very advanced aerobic system, that you have a system that allows you to like, really catch up with people late in the race. But there's a few things here. Very advanced aerobic system, mental toughness and pain tolerance is off the charts. I haven't seen too many people like her in 33 years of coaching. This kid has one of the best systems I've ever seen. Her nervous system and brain can take it. That's an amazing quality. Where does
that a compliment
come from? And also,
I think,
yeah, like, do you think that's true? Do you see yourself as having like an uncanny ability to just like endure pain, both physically and mentally?
Yes. Personally, I think a lot of it comes with open water and having that kind of 2-hour long race mindset. I think the biggest race that this is pulling from would be my Portugal race in 2024. So last year, or maybe it was 2023 in December. It was like leading up until right before Worlds in Doha, which was the Olympic qualifier. I was a minute and a half behind the lead pack. And it was to the point where I saw how far they were ahead of me. And I had an inner monologue in my head. I'm like, okay, I already have my world spot. I can give up right here, throw in the towel and be like, these conditions suck, and get further behind. Or I can use this last 5K and catch up and see what I can do. And I ended up getting outtouched for fourth in that race. I almost medaled, and that would have been my first World Cup where I medaled at. That, I think that's the race that I go back to when I am talking about the mindset that you have to have as an open water swimmer, because I mean, being a minute and a half behind, and I'm not kidding you, these are the biggest waves I've ever swam through, just awful conditions in Portugal, and the water was cold. I just made a game out of it. I was like, okay, by the next buoy, I'm going to catch one more person. And I just like kept doing that and played a game and just picked them off one by one. And then I was able to finish fourth. And I think that kind of shows that I have that finishing speed and that kind of next level aerobic, but also the mindset that goes behind open water swimming and the mindset that I have.
I have a question about the USA 10K swimming. I read somewhere when I was looking up information about you that there's only been a handful of American women who've made the Olympic team in the 10K. Chloe, Ashley, yourself, Katie, etc. Why is that? Is the US so far behind, or is the world just so level playing field when it comes to 10K open water swimming?
I think that the U.S. isn't necessarily like this is the second Olympics where we had both girls qualify.
Yeah.
And I think that the U.S. is not as set. Europe is more advanced, I feel like, in open water swimming. And I'm saying this as not to like knock on USA swimming, but just the reality of it is that Europeans, they have like the Len Cup and then the World Cups, and their access to open water races is a lot more easy to get to because Europe, you don't realize how small Europe is. So they're racing a lot more. Whereas US swimmers, we only get to race about 3 open water races a year. Whereas open water swimmers like Sharon and all these girls that are medaling, they're racing about 8 to 9 times a year. And I do realize that like Moesha Johnson, she medaled in the 10K at the Olympics, and she actually moved to train with Sharon just so she had that like availability to races, because Australia is kind of in the same sense that they're so far away and so out of touch with the European Len Cup schedule that they're not. It's a lot for them to travel over there, and same with us. It's a lot of money to spend to get the open water athletes to travel and do some Len Cup races and stuff. So I just don't think that we have we're not as available to those races, and I think it gives the European open water swimmers a leg up. But I mean, Katie and I are very gritty, and I feel like we're gaining more and more experience with every single open water swim that we do. So I feel like we're trying to close that gap for USA open water.
But it does seem that those American swimmers I mentioned, for instance, I know their names from pool swimming. I mean, Chloe Sutton, but I don't know many of them, the non-American swimmers, because not many of them swim pool and open water.
Right.
Is that an issue? I mean, should you just specialize in open water training as well, besides the racing you mentioned? Is it more than you should just be training hardcore and forget flip turns and forget that sprint of a mile? You know,
it's definitely something I've thought about, especially because it's tough, and I don't know it as well as Katie does. Obviously, like she is the first ever US swimmer to make it in the pool and open water in the same Olympics, and that is so awesome. And it's phenomenal that it's able to that she's able to do that. But it's definitely something that I've thought about, is just like specializing in open water, giving it my all and seeing where it can lead me. But I also love swimming that 1500 in the pool, and I do love racing at trials and stuff like that. So I get pulled both ways. Right now, obviously I'm swimming NCAA, and that's what I'm focusing on right now. Because this is my last NCAA season. But after that, when I become a pro, I think that I'll still want to be going to some of the Tier Pro Series meets and stuff like that.
You mentioned the Europeans having many more races, and that maybe being a benefit for them. Is it the pure racing that they're getting? Is it also maybe just more access to open water? Is it having more variable open water? I guess when you're like, say you had, dream scenario that you could set up, what would it look like as far as different types of training and different environments and racing too for open water?
Yeah, if I had dream open water, I guess in that dream scenario, I would love to train open water at least twice a week, maybe once a week. I love the way that I have my training set up now at IU with being able to go to the lake sometimes and Corey out on his boat and swimming or boating next to us as we're swimming the lake. That's been awesome. But I think in that scenario, it would be more beneficial to race more. I think racing is the only way that you can gain experience in open water, because as much as a lake practice does help with open water techniques and stuff, you have to still be able to apply those and using those techniques. And I think it's way more beneficial to race open water than it is to necessarily train it all the time.
Yeah, it's a good segue to my question. So the three of us have swum an open water race together a couple of times. It's the Trans Tahoe Relay, where it's the cross Tahoe in a relay and 6 people. It's like, oh, how long, guys? 11 miles and you swim half an hour. And I love that race because it's fresh water. There's no big sharks going to bite me. It's calm. I don't have to spot. So there's a boat right next to me. So I'm just swimming like normal with the boat. There's a timer, so I know how long I have to go. And there's nobody next to me kicking me and pushing me, and I'm not fighting. At least when I have to swim, I'm by myself. Brian starts off, he has to fight. But open water it makes sense that the training.
Some of this he's making up, by the way. There's no timer.
No, there's a guy who says you have 5 minutes left, 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left. Knowing how much longer I have. But
we got it.
But you mentioned open water swimming because the training open water is more than just your aerobic capacity and your pace sets, but it's dealing with how to take a turn. It's dealing with spotting. It's dealing with that idiot who is on your feet or kicking you and getting past that, right? So talk to more about that side of it, because the racing is the training as well, right?
Right. And yes, exactly. So when I'm swimming in the lake with Corey, I don't have to worry about anyone kicking me or punching me, throwing me under a buoy, anything like that. But that's the fun part of open water for me. If there weren't any people there, then it wouldn't be as fun to swim open water and just swim 10K straight, right?
Right.
So for me, that's the aspect of it that I love. Like, I love the aggression. Sometimes it obviously frustrates me and it can throw me off balance, like during a race. But being able to like rebound and conditions is different. That's another kind of mindset that I have, like, behind conditions. It's like everyone's dealing with them. Like everyone is dealing with the same conditions. It's a matter of who can deal with them better. And that's why I don't care what conditions I don't care what conditions we're racing in, warm water, cold water, waves, no waves, it's whatever, because we're all dealing with it. And then as far as aggression, just being able to kind of keep calm and like find your center if someone's bothering you during a race, that's also open water. Like that, if we didn't have that, then it wouldn't be the sport that it is today. And so that's why I love it.
So are you one of those people who sees a hurricane come in and you're like, oh, I could definitely swim in that? Like, that's
funny that you mentioned that, because I've seen like some of the not as bad like hurricane, like where they're kind of like on the outskirts of it videos. I was like, like I could swim in that, I think. Like if I needed to go get food or like, and then I was like, maybe that's not a good thing to say, but I have thought about that, but never. Yeah, I mean, as far as like race conditions or sea life, I never think about the sea life. Everyone's like, you do realize that there's sharks in the water? I was like, yes, like I'm not blind to it. Like I know I'm swimming in the ocean, but I like freak out, swim faster than the person next to me, and that's all you got to do to get away from the shark.
It's a matter of acceptance.
Yeah, move over, storm chasers. We have storm swimmers coming through now. So one more question about training. I've heard of pool swimmers trying to set up open water environments, whether it's like throwing a ton of swimmers in the same lane or like setting up buoys around like a 50-meter pool and doing, circles and laps around that. Do you find there is benefit to that as an open water swimmer? Okay.
Yes. I think that was one of the last things that I did before I left for Doha in February. They took out all the lane lines, had me come and swim 1 to 3. They put little buoys in for me and in the IU pool. And then I made this big old touchpad that says, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on what it said, but it had the Olympic rings on it. It said like, let's go make the team. And then that was like my finishing pad. And that was super beneficial. I enjoy things like that because as far as like training and getting in shape, pool swimming is great, but sometimes you do have to do those like little open water swims because you don't realize like how much open water takes it out of you, like having to lift your head, your hip flexors, like getting in pain in the middle. And so kind of the things that we can do to mimic that is it's great. And there were boys that were like, make waves for me with like a little kickboard and stuff to make it a little more difficult. So yeah.
I remember training for the 3K when I was a kid, and the coach is saying, okay guys, we're not doing flip turns because every time you push off a wall in a pool, your legs rest for like 1 second.
Yeah.
You know, so try not, and that's every 12 seconds, your legs can't get a rest for a second, and that makes a difference.
Yes.
And I want to talk about Paris though. So, you know, the Hungarian guys who won gold and bronze, they train in the Danube River to practice for the currents going up and down. And we asked Katie Grimes recently, did you go to like a lazy river and practice swimming against the currents, you know, and get used to that? How did you guys prepare training for the environment of a river swimming?
I think that's something that we kind of lacked in our training and preparation. And I think that that's something that I kind of have a little bit of regret about, but leading like post Olympics and having time to reflect on that. Yeah. I think that I really underestimated how fast that water was moving and how just pure awful it was, to be completely honest. And that is something that I do have a regret about. I wish we had found a river or something to like mimic that, gotten a current pool. Because I think that I went about it like, okay, everyone's dealing with this, but there are some people that were prepping for it. And that's like what we kind of like failed on that end is like, oh, everyone's going to be dealing with it. It'll be fine. Like, but no, some people were prepping for it. So they knew exactly how it was going to feel. And I didn't know how it was going to feel. And I think if you would have taken the same people, put them in the backup venue that was in that rowing basin, it would have been a different outcome. 100%. I know that for a fact. Like it would not have been the same 6 people medaled. I think there would have been some more variation in it. And that's something that I do have regrets about. I wish I would have known a little bit more about swimming in a river leading up to it.
Don't you think, like you said, you take the blame, oh, I should have done this, but don't you think USA Swimming should have been maybe looking into this a little bit more? It's not like the Seine current's like changing drastically. I think ideally they would have more, you know, updated information to give athletes about conditions and currents and things like that. I guess, did you receive that, or is that something that you think would be helpful in the future?
I think that would have been so helpful. And that has been something that we talked about. Like I talked about it with my parents and my coaches after, like we have analysts for the pool team. Yeah. And they know their stroke rates and like how many strokes Ledecky is taking per lap on an 800 freestyle or 1500 freestyle. So I wish we kind of would have had that person from USA Swimming kind of be like, oh, the sun rises at the same time every single day. So by the way, you're going to be staring into the sun the first lap. Like that was something that we didn't know. Like genuinely, Katie and I talked about it after, like we could not see the first lap, but if we had been prepared for it, like, oh, by the way, you're not going to be able to see the first lap. It would have like the sun rises the same time every day. Like that would have been good for like someone to tell us, and kind of like prepare for that condition, as well as like, oh, this is how fast the water is moving. And, this is like the fastest route. Like I don't think it would have taken like a swim nerd, maybe one day or swim analyst, anyone who's science-based, one day to figure out, okay, this is going to be the fastest route for you. And I think if we would have had that, Katie, Ivan and I would have been more prepared heading into that race. So
yeah, we got to get Brian there with a microphone ahead of time. Be like, this is the best route they need to go. We got the current going at 1.4 meters per second, kind of like a NFL analyst.
Yeah, because if you looked at the course,
we'll go back to Florida during a hurricane, and we'll do it. Right there.
Yeah.
I'm out here
reporting live.
Yeah, and also like. while like looking at that course, if you would have told me that the fastest way to swim this course was to stay on that wall that was about 100 meters off the line, I would have been like, you're crazy. Like, there's no way that that's the fastest way. And then it was. And I'm just sitting here like, oh my gosh, this is awful. Like, I'm fighting waves the entire time and there's just no relief. And then you think that it's going to be better when you're like traveling with the current, and then it wasn't. It's just like, it was probably one of the mentally like hardest things I've ever been through. Like it's just one of those things where you just like exhaust cry after it, because I'm just so exhausted from fighting for 2 hours and 10 minutes or however long. I think it was like 2 hours and 10, which is already a longer 10K. So
yeah, I remember we asked Katie about this, but because I was in Paris and I went and saw some of the triathlon races, and I remember watching Flora Duffy lead out the women's triathlon, and everybody was commenting about like how she was just slammed up against the side of the wall and taking this super deviating route, but she was like very, hugging the side by, the boats and everything. So, but I think that happened before the open water race that you swim in, right? Were you guys watching?
Yes. Yes. So we did take the information that we saw from the triathletes, and every single time I swam on the wall. But it was crazy how different it was, even if you were like 3 people over from the wall. So it was like the wall, person, and then it was me. I'm fighting so much more than that person that's on the wall. So it was almost like it would have been more beneficial for me to drop back, get behind that person on the wall, than it would be to just fight to just keep up with them and like hold that place. So
this is another area where I feel like, to your point about the scouting, is if you had a connection with the triathlon team, and you're able to just talk to them about tactics and what they felt in the water and everything beforehand.
Yeah, we did.
Do you even?
We
You
did.
did. You know them? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Well, it's good to know that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question about, and it's not specific to USA swimming, it's in general, governance on the two sports, so swimming and open water swimming. Do you think, I don't know what the answer is it good to have it under one governing body, or should there be a separate arm just for open water swimming? Because we talked about the racing schedule, the racing training, the racing, the suits you guys use in nutrition, the funding you need. It's a very different sport in so many ways. And is it getting the attention it deserves falling under the governing body of both sports, or should it be a separate arm? And this is in general. Do you know of countries that have a swimming open water governing body and a pool water governing body?
I do not. I think they all typically fall under the same.
Yeah.
And I think that it was, I enjoy the way that we have it set up, while I think there are more things that we could do to kind of, and I think they're already working on for the future, setting up more open water races in the US. Because I think to just grow the sport, because I think that there are a lot of people that would be interested in swimming open water across the country, but somehow we still only have 40 girls showing up to open water nationals to swim this 10K. And I think that having it under USA Swimming is the best that it, like, it's a good setup for right now. Now in the future, maybe it'd be beneficial to split it up, but I like how it is now. And I just think that there is more room for the sport to grow, especially within the US.
Yeah, it's a really hard sport to grow spectator wise and viewing wise. It takes 2 hours.
Absolutely.
And I mean, Rowdy did a damn good job talking for 2 straight hours with you guys. But as a spectator watching it, so the race we have in Trinidad, where I'm from, is packed. People show up because it's at a beach, our most popular beach. And you swim along the water, so you can literally walk along the beach and see the swimmers up and down, and they finish onto the sand, and it's super exciting with waves and all that stuff. And we have a massive engagement of the crowds. And the Seine potentially had that, right? You could literally be on top of you guys, watching you guys right there and seeing it. So you think we need more dynamic, not just races, but venues and environments to encourage the participation?
Absolutely. And I think that's why Paris was pushing so hard for us to swim in this river, is to kind of grow, like have people say that like I'm one of maybe 200 people that can say that they've swam in the Seine. So that was really cool. Yeah. Yeah. That was really cool. And there were hundreds and hundreds of spectators there watching us, because I think that they realized like, wow, look at what all of these like swimmers are having to deal with. And I think people are genuinely amazed by open water swimming. And there's always people that are like, you do that? Like you race with sharks? And yeah. And I love it. And so I think that there is more room for it to grow, especially for more dynamic venues.
Yeah.
Are there any open water races with an Aussie exit like they have in some triathlons? Where they like get out of the water for a brief second, so you can kind of see everybody's face and kind of get as an athlete, you can kind of see, okay, where am I? Maybe if you couldn't see it in the water, you can kind of see the field.
I haven't done a race like that since I was 12 or 13 in Open Water Ohio LSC championships, where we got to like get out and like kind of race to the finish. And those are always so exciting. Those are so exciting. So I think that would cause a lot more spectators to like be more involved in that. But yeah, I have not been in a race like that in years.
When we had Cal Chalmers on, he loves swimming the 100 free as a back-off swimmer. He always comes back in a 24.4, 24.4, and he trains for it, and he just sets that, focus on what 24.4 feels like. You've been described as a back-off marathon swimmer. What the heck does that mean? Like, how do you train for a back-off of a 10K?
A lot of it is just negative splitting in everything that I do, whether it be literally warm-up or the main set. And pushing it, we kind of talked about that pain threshold, pushing through that at the end, like regardless of how I'm feeling, I have to go faster on this last rep, like no matter what, or I'm redoing it. Like that's my mindset behind it. I'm like, and I have done things like that before, like where I didn't hit a time that I wanted to on the back half, and I'm like, all right, I'm going on the top and I'm doing it again because I have to go faster. And so just like having that mindset in my training, I think is what really aids in having that back half in the open water swims.
But it's a back half of a 10K. Are you telling me the last hour is faster? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I just build upon my training, especially that's where those challenge practices come in. It's like when we have these big, long 8K sets, 10K sets, I just build through it and I train it like open water. We did a lot of variable training as well. So like changing, I figured out that some of the issues that I was having during my races is being able to like go from pink and then I'm like, oh, I need to catch this girl, go back to a purple effort and then settle back into that pink really quick to kind of save some energy. So we worked on that within my training and just really fine tuning. Like, I feel like that's something that my coaches are awesome at here, is taking things that I'm struggling with in races and actually applying those things to my practices.
Sorry to keep bringing this back to triathlon, but
you're good.
I think about the ability for somebody riding a bike can look at a power meter and use that as a metric while they're riding to kind of understand and calibrate effort. And in running, you can look at your watch and just check the pace, and you can also track heart rate that way. Is there anything that you thought about for swimming that, swimming is all this like RPE, rate of perceived effort. And, so far, I don't think there's any technology being used, whether like maybe some in training, but in racing, no ability to like kind of check in and calibrate that like pink versus, red or purple efforts. So I don't know, do you think that would help, or do you kind of like prefer the purest, going off of feel thing? I feel like there's like an opportunity for swimming to evolve with the technology.
Oh, I agree. I definitely think that there's more technology that could be evolved within the sport of swimming. However, like right now we do the polar heart rate monitors. And so my coaches know where my heart rate's at. And I think we've used those so much that they know where my heart rate is supposed to be. And like for me, for example, I have a very low heart rate compared to some of my other teammates. So when we're doing a red set and some people's heart rates are at 180, mine is at 160. But knowing that for me and like knowing that I can hold this heart rate for this long. And then we've used it now so much where I'm like, okay, I know where my heart rate, like kind of like, okay, if I push it for too long, this is where I'm going to fall off. And so just like kind of having that overuse of data almost, I never think that there's too much data that you can have truly. So I think that just in using that all the time, I'm able to fine tune like, okay, this is where my level of effort's at right now. And my heart rate is showing that. So.
Well, like you said, love data. What is your resting heart rate? And I guess that's another one. What's the highest you've ever gotten your lactate as a distance swimmer?
As far as like heart rate
or a resting heart rate, people are always interested, like, oh, what's your resting heart rate? Mm-hmm. And like aerobic athletes are meant to have, pretty low resting heart rates. So
I think my resting heart rate, according to my Whoop, is like 39, I think. So pretty low. And then the highest I think I've ever seen my heart rate is like 180. If I'm in 187, if I ever hit 190, then you might need to take me to the hospital because something's not right there. And it's funny because on those practices where I'm like, okay, I need to get a little bit more speed, so we're just doing push 50s, my heart rate doesn't get as high as it would during a distance set. It's really bizarre, but that's how I'm built, I guess.
Well, don't ever spend any time in the hospital because if your resting heart rate is around 40 or below, you'll automatically set off the alarm for the nurse to come in. This happened to me a couple years ago.
Yeah. I think one time my Whoop buzzed me awake because my heart rate like got really low. I think it got to like 36 while I was sleeping and it thought I was like dying or something. So it gave me a little buzz and I was like, okay, like it woke me up a little.
I'm not dying. I just have an unbelievable aerobic system.
Humble brag. So one thing you mentioned with open water, you're having to pass people. You have to go between different energy systems more commonly than in pool swimming. So are there any example sets you're doing, or are you like changing intensity? Say you're doing like 10-100. Is it like you're changing intensities throughout to kind of practice this ability to switch gears more often?
It's more long distances. So we were doing like 800, a lot of this over the summer, we were doing 800s where it was 50 or 150 pink, 50 blue. And you would just continue that for continue that cycle for the 800. So just little speed changes like that to kind of, okay, I need to push my heart rate to the blue right now. And then I'll settle back into pink or I'll settle back into red. So just making it like a more conscious effort.
You know how we have fast pools in pool swimming, right? There's in depth and lane lines and width and stuff. For you, what's your ideal course? Like, what do you know? You know what? This is a good course. I'm going to go fast. The water temp is X. You like loops as opposed to one length. It's, what's your ideal course for you? You know, you're going to go a 157 today. If you feel good.
I think a 6th lap course is my favorite.
Okay.
My favorite venue would be Israel. I've always swam really good there. And the conditions there are, it's never a wetsuit race. It's always like warmer water. And the salt there's obviously like, it's very salty. So you're a little bit more buoyant in the water as well. And the waves are non-existent. I love racing in Israel.
Is that the reason why? Are there no world records for, say, the 10K woman? And is that the reason? And what's the fastest you've heard about somebody swimming a 10K for a woman?
We've swam a 10K in Lake Las Vegas in like 1:48 for a woman. And I think that course was just short. Like, I don't think it's ever a fast course. It's just a matter of, is this the actual distance of the 10K or not? And I don't think it was.
No.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your ideal course. Was the Seine your worst course with all the, rumors about what's in the pool, the currents, is it going to be here? Is it going to be there? Are they actually going to do it?
Yes, that Seine was definitely the worst course I've ever swam in. I can say that hands down now. I mean, and then if we're going to like worst ocean swim, the waves in Portugal are always just so brutal. So brutal.
Yeah, have you been up to the biggest wave in the world there?
No, I have not. Where's it? Nazareth.
It's in Nazareth. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have not. I have not seen that. But I have a feeling that has something to do with the waves on the other coast as well. Like it's just all. I feel like Portugal is all like just notorious for having huge, massive waves, massive current.
Give me some advice. I'm going to swim my first 10K. I'm 18 years old, and I find myself in the pack, and there are people all around me, and I'm getting elbowed and kicked and stuff. Should I speed up? Should I slow down? Should I pull out to the left? What would you do to get over that hurdle as a rookie swimmer?
Mm-hmm. I think you just need to find whichever spot you're most comfortable in. For me, I love being in the middle. I can have a wider stroke, and but for a first time swimmer, just finding wherever you're most comfortable and you feel at ease, because that's how open water swimming is built. It's a matter of like being able to manage your emotions for 2 hours, because if your mind is constantly running for 2 hours, you're gonna be drained before you even are able to get to the touch pad. So just find that spot where you feel like you're catching really good draft, and also just swimming easy and being able to keep up with the pack.
Do you guys team up? In the Tour de France, the team helps and drafts, and the guy goes up front, and then the main designated winners drag him behind. Do you guys team up and help each other with drafting and helping each other get through crowds and stuff?
I don't think so. I mean, it might be like an unspoken thing sometimes. Like I think there are definitely people that have done that before. I have never like spoken out that way, but I feel like I know the type of people that I am free to swim around and not get hit, and are very experienced in navigating. So I kind of put myself next to those people on purpose, or and I know who not to swim next to. Like I know who's gonna kick my face in if they ever get the chance to. So I think it's just a matter of, and because the open water community is so small, I'm able to know like, okay, this person is an aggressive person. Don't swim next to her. I know to swim next to this person because they're very good at navigating. So I kind of like pull things from each person that I can use to help my race.
We had a swimmer swim from Catalina Island and she said she got bit by a shark within the first, half mile of the race, and only found out she was bit by a shark when she finished. We've had Clark Smith swim a 1650 with a groin injury right through. Have you had an experience where you got kicked in the goggles or elbowed and stuff? Had to swim through that? What was the worst physical contact you've had in open water?
The worst physical contact is always a race in Italy. I feel like because Italy is a very big open water country, and they always bring about, I think there were 40 Italians just in this race. So, and then on top of that, there was a total of like 100 people. So those are always the most aggressive for me. I got kicked so hard in the mouth. I had a bruise, and I have a picture of it the next day, and it was like massive right here. And I was like, are my teeth still there? Like I wanted to stop and ask, because my coach wasn't at this race, but Bryce, the open water director, was there feeding me for that race. I wanted to stop and ask him if my teeth were still there, because I didn't have any feeling in my tongue. Like I couldn't tell. So that was probably like the worst aggression that I've ever had to deal with. I've also got my cap ripped off at Junior Worlds heading into the finish shoot. And that was really frustrating for me as well, because I ended up getting 4th in that race when I knew that I would have medaled had I not got my cap ripped off. And like then my goggles were filled up with water, so I actually couldn't see for the last 300. So it is part of the sport though, and you live, you learn, and now I know how to get out of those situations to where I'm not putting myself in a situation where I'm getting kicked.
Is it taboo to be like known as an aggressive open water swimmer, or is it more like a badge of honor, or somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between. It is definitely somewhere in between, because I think sometimes my coaches are like, yeah, you got a yellow card. Like you're actually defending yourself for once. Like for me, that's what it is. It's like, I'm never outwardly going to go and like be like, okay, I'm going to attack this person so that they are like, so that I beat them. That's not the type of person that I am. That's not the type of swimmer that I am. Every time I've gotten a yellow card, it's because I've been trying to get out of a situation that the girls are beating up on me and they're not getting called for it. So I'm trying to get out of that situation, and I end up rolling over them or like pulling them back in order to like just like have some sort of freedom. So it's definitely somewhere in between. And it definitely just depends on the person and like their intentions behind what they're doing.
Man, I love that physical contact is part of it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. We got a few rapid fire questions for you, Mariah.
Okay.
What's the hardest race?
It's not going to take 2 hours. It's quick. Sorry.
What's the hardest race in swimming?
10K open water.
Olympic gold or world record?
Ooh. Olympic gold.
What's the best fuel for open water swimming?
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
What kind of bread?
I like honey wheat bread.
What are you reading or watching right now?
I am watching that Menendez Brothers show. Monsters. I forget what it's called.
Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the most annoying thing a teammate can do?
Oh my gosh, I get so annoyed with my teammates when they don't know how to pass or swimming in the middle.
What's one thing that you look for in a pool swimmer that would make them good in open water?
Being able to go for thousands of yards at a time.
What's the hardest set you've ever done?
10 1,000s probably.
What were you going?
I think it was like every other was fast, and they were on 11. They were on like a 110 base short course.
All right. And then what are you going to be for Halloween?
I don't dress up for Halloween. I know, I'm lame.
Well,
I'm old now. I feel old.
Well, we know how often social kick is happening now as a fundamental part of the IU practice, but once you guys go out to the lake, are you guys doing any kick in the lake too?
No, I wish. I wish we could do kick in the lake. Sometimes we'll use fins, but I wish we brought our boards out there and did some social kick. That'd be fun.
Next time you should. Maybe not the most efficient use of time, but hey, off season, why not?
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Well, Mariah, it's been so much fun to hang out with you and spend some time. We appreciate you coming on.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
All right, that's it for this episode of Social Kick. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. If you're enjoying Social Kick, tell your friends about it. And be sure to tell us what you liked by leaving a comment and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Social Kick. And you can find all of our content on our website at thesocialkick.com.